Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating chapter from the Bible, Jeremiah 32.
Absolutely. It's one of those chapters that just drops you right into the thick of it. A real moment of crisis for ancient Judah.
Exactly. But what's so compelling is that somehow, right in the middle of all that disaster, it's also profoundly about hope.
Which seems almost impossible given the setting.
Right. So let's paint that picture. Jerusalem is under siege.
hmm
You've got the Babylonian army, this huge power, literally surrounding the city, tightening the noose.
Yeah, the situation is dire. And inside the city, the prophet Jeremiah, the guy who's supposed to be delivering God's message.
He's locked up, and not even by the enemy. He's imprisoned by his own king, Zedekiah.
Which tells you something about the message he was
Well,
bringing.
definitely. What got him thrown in there? He was prophesying the absolute worst news you could give a king in that situation.
He was saying the city will fall. It's going to happen.
And not just the city. He was saying King Zedekiah himself will be captured, taken away, no escape.
Talk about a message nobody wants to hear, especially not the king.
Precisely. So that's the backdrop. Intense, desperate. And you're right, this isn't just, a bad political moment.
No, this is really the culmination, the boiling point, after years, generations even, of the people turning away from God, both Judah and Israel before them.
So judgment feels, well, inevitable.
It really does.
Right.
And Jeremiah's the poor guy stuck delivering that memo.
So where exactly is he being held? The text says the courtyard of the guard.
Right. Which is significant. It's not some remote dungeon.
No, it's right there, basically within the royal palace complex.
Yeah.
Zedekiah put him there specifically because he couldn't stand hearing Jeremiah's prophecies anymore.
You can almost hear the frustration, can't you? Zedekiah basically saying, why? Why do you keep prophesying this?
Yeah, quoting Jeremiah back at him almost. The Lord says, I'm about to hand this city over. He will capture it.
And you, Zedekiah, you won't escape. You'll be handed over. You'll see the king of Babylon face to face.
He'll take you to Babylon and fighting them. You won't succeed. It's just bleak. Utterly bleak.
And that's the message that gets him confined, right there in the palace grounds. The irony.
It is. So, grim scene. Enemy outside, imprisoned inside by your own leader for telling the truth. Walls closing in.
Literally and figuratively, yeah.
And then something shifts.
Hmm.
In the middle of all this doom, this personal low point for Jeremiah, he gets another message from God.
And this one is, well, it's completely unexpected, almost bizarre given the context.
This is where the chapter takes that turn, right? Where the
Right.
paradox really starts to emerge.
Exactly. So God tells Jeremiah that his cousin, Hanamel, is on his way.
Hanamel, son of Shallum, and he's coming with an offer.
An offer to sell Jeremiah a field he owns in a place called Anathoth.
And God tells Jeremiah, it's your right, your duty actually, as the nearest relative, to redeem it, to buy it back.
Okay, let's just pause there. Anathoth, where is Anathoth?
It's Jeremiah's hometown, actually, just a few miles northeast of Jerusalem.
So, given that the Babylonians are besieging Jerusalem,
It's highly likely, almost certain, that Anathoth is either already overrun by Babylonian troops or directly in their path. Basically enemy territory, or about to be.
so God's instruction, while Jeremiah is in prison watching the city die, is to buy real estate.
Buy real estate that's effectively already lost or about to be destroyed, from any rational standpoint.
It makes zero sense. It's like buying stock the day before the company declares bankruptcy. Worse, maybe.
Totally illogical.
Yeah.
It flies in the face of everything happening, everything Jeremiah himself is prophesying about the immediate future.
But here's the thing. Despite how utterly weird it must have seemed, Jeremiah's reaction is just immediate.
Hanamel shows up, just like God said he would. And Jeremiah's response.
He just says, "Then I knew that this was the word of the Lord."
No argument, no, are you sure, God? Just acceptance,
Yeah.
certainty, even in the face of absurdity.
So the cousin, Hanamel, arrives right there in the courtyard of the guard, in front of everyone.
And makes the offer, and Jeremiah buys the field.
We're told the price 17 shekels of silver. Not a huge sum, perhaps, but the amount isn't really the point.
No, the act itself is the point,
Yeah.
and how it's done.
Right. This isn't just a handshake deal. It's formal. It's legal, even with the siege going on outside.
They weigh the silver on scales, proper measurement.
They sign the deed of purchase, they seal it, making it official, and crucially, they have witnesses.
People are there to attest that this transaction actually happened.
And the text even mentions 2 copies of the deed, one sealed, the official one, rolled up tight.
And one unsealed copy, probably left open so you can easily check the details. It's all very meticulous.
Which is striking, considering the chaos, and where it happens makes it even more powerful.
Absolutely. This whole thing is public. Jeremiah gives the deeds to his scribe, Baruch, son of Neriah.
And it all happens, the text says, in the presence of Hanimal, the witnesses, and get this, all the Jews sitting in the courtyard of the guard.
Everyone sees it. This prophet, jailed for predicting doom, is publicly buying a piece of land that's basically already gone. It's a spectacle.
A very deliberate, visible act. And then comes the next instruction, what to do with these deeds.
Right. Jeremiah gives them to Baruch.
And the instruction Baruch receives is absolutely central to the whole meaning here.
What's he told to do?
Take both copies, the sealed and the unsealed, and put them in a clay jar so they will last a long time.
Wow. A clay jar. Like earthenware. Something durable.
Exactly. Think about that imagery. Taking this legal document for land that's about to be worthless, destroyed, and carefully putting it away. Preserving it.
Like you'd put away something precious, something you expect to need again, maybe much later.
Precisely. Not for tomorrow, but for the long haul. Maybe for the next generation.
And God explains why. This isn't just some eccentric whim.
No, the reason given is the core message of hope. The Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says, "For this is what the Lord Almighty says. Houses, fields, and vineyards will again be bought in this land."
So the purchase, the preservation.
It's a sign. It's a divinely ordained symbol. An action embedding God's promise of future restoration right into the middle of the present destruction. A tangible piece of hope.
Okay, so Jeremiah does this incredible thing, this totally counterintuitive act of faith. He buys the field, gets the deeds, tells Baruch to put them in the clay jar.
And then he prays. And his prayer is just fascinating. It really shows the struggle, the tension he's feeling.
How so?
Well, he starts off acknowledging God's incredible power. Sovereign Lord, you have made the heavens and the earth. Nothing is too hard for you. He remembers God's past faithfulness, the Exodus, giving them the land.
He acknowledges God's justice too, right?
Yeah.
That God deals with people based on their actions, that sin brings consequences.
Yes, absolutely. But then he pivots to the present nightmare. He lays it bare. He talks about the people's constant disobedience that led to this disaster.
He looks around, sees the siege ramps going up against the city walls.
Yeah, he says, see how the siege ramps are built up to take the city? The city will be handed over. He sees the judgment unfolding exactly as God warned. It's real. It's happening.
And then he contrasts that stark reality with the command he just obeyed.
Exactly. He basically says, and even though the city is being handed over, you, sovereign Lord, told me to buy the field with silver and get witnesses.
It sounds like he's wrestling. Like, God, I see the destruction. It's here. And I did this weird thing you told me to do. But how?
How do these two things fit together? That's the heart of his question. The destruction is real, but so is your command to invest in the future of this very land. How can both be true at the same time?
It's such an honest prayer. He obeyed in faith, but he's still grappling with the why in the face of overwhelming reality.
And God answers him directly. The word of the Lord comes to Jeremiah again.
And how does God start?
By reminding Jeremiah who he is. I am the Lord, the God of all mankind. Is anything too hard for me? It echoes Jeremiah's own words back to him. It's a reassurance of God's absolute power.
Okay, so God can handle this paradox, but does he downplay the judgment?
Not at all. God is brutally honest about the present. He confirms, yes, the city will be handed over to the Babylonians. It will be burned.
He even mentions specific sins, doesn't he? Like the houses where people were burning incense to Baal on the rooftops?
Yes, pouring out drink offerings to other gods, right there in their homes, provoking him. God doesn't whitewash the reasons for the judgment.
He goes into the history of it, the long pattern of disobedience.
He does. He talks about how Israel and Judah have provoked him from their youth, how the city itself has been a source of his anger for so long.
Turning their backs, refusing to listen.
Setting up idols right in the temple, his house, defiling it, building high places for Baal worship in the valley of Ben Hinnom, just outside the city.
And the child sacrifice mention. Sacrificing sons and daughters to Molech. That's horrifying.
It is. And God explicitly says he never commanded such a thing. It never even entered his mind that they would do something so detestable. So the judgment, while severe, is presented as the just consequence of generations of deep, persistent sin.
Okay, so the judgment is real, it's deserved, it's happening. But then...
Bavut. And this is the massive pivot. This is the answer to Jeremiah's prayer. Despite all this, despite the righteous anger and the banishment that's coming, God declares absolutely a future restoration.
Okay, so What does that restoration look like? What does God promise?
It's incredibly comprehensive. He promises he will gather them back from all the countries where he scattered them in his anger and wrath,
Back to where?
back to this place, this
Yeah.
land, and he'll let them live in safety,
And the relationship with God?
fully restored. They will be my people and I will be their God. That covenant relationship renewed.
And he promises to change their hearts too, right?
Yes. Singleness of heart and action, he says. So they'll fear him always, united in devotion. For their own good and for their children after them, it addresses the root problem.
Wow. What else?
He promises an everlasting covenant with them, that he'll never stop doing good to them. He'll put the fear of him in their hearts so they won't turn away again.
That's huge.
And this part is beautiful. He says, he will rejoice in doing them good. He will assuredly plant them back in this land with all my heart and soul. It's not reluctant, it's his joy.
So the same God who brought the disaster is promising prosperity.
With the exact same certainty, he explicitly says, just as surely as I brought this great disaster, I will bring them all the prosperity I have promised them. One is as certain as the other.
And now it connects back to the field purchase.
Exactly. God explicitly links this massive future promise directly back to that strange symbolic act Jeremiah just performed.
How does he put it?
He says, once more fields will be bought in this land. The very land they're saying is desolate, wasted, handed over to the enemy.
That same land will see life and commerce again. Buying fields, signing deeds.
Signing, sealing, witnessing deeds, the whole process Jeremiah just went through. And he lists the locations. Benjamin, around Jerusalem, towns of Judah, the hill country, the western foothills, the Negev.
Basically all the areas currently being destroyed or threatened, the restoration will be widespread.
It will touch every corner.
Yeah.
And the ultimate reason, the engine behind it all, God declares, because I will restore their fortunes.
So the field purchase wasn't just random.
Not at all. It was a living sign, a tangible piece of evidence commanded by God, planted in the middle of despair, pointing firmly to a guaranteed future restoration. God was demonstrating his absolute commitment, his certainty, even when everything looked hopeless.
That clay jar held more than just a deed.
It held the physical proof of an impossible promise, preserved for a future only God could guarantee.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up, synthesize this deep dive. Jeremiah buying that field. It wasn't him ignoring the terrible reality.
No, he was fully aware. He was prophesying the doom right up until that moment.
But the purchase itself was this powerful, symbolic act. An act of faith, not in the present circumstances, but in God's future promise.
He buried the deed, put it in that clay jar, not expecting immediate results. He knew it might be generations.
But he trusted God's word. Houses, fields, vineyards would be bought again in that land. Someday.
And that really hits the so what for us, doesn't it? This chapter throws into sharp relief that paradox of living through really hard times, crisis, loss, when everything seems hopeless.
How do you hold on to hope then? How do you act on future promises when the present reality just screams the opposite?
And that clay jar image, it's so powerful. It tells us some promises are for the long haul. They need preserving. They need patient faith that might outlast the immediate crisis, maybe even outlast us.
It shows God's commitment isn't just for today. It stretches beyond what we can see right now.
His promise endures, even when everything around seems to be falling apart.
So that brings the question to you, listening now. Whatever you might be facing, how do you find ways, maybe small ways, symbolic ways, to act in faith when things look bleak?
Right. Where can you place your trust in the long-term promise, whether it's from God or a deep conviction about the future, even when the immediate evidence feels overwhelming?
Think about the weight of that clay jar Jeremiah buried, holding a deed for land that was about to be torched and abandoned, enemy land.
Yet, it represented an unbreakable promise from God's own heart and soul, a sign of future restoration planted right in the ruins.
So what are the clay jars in your life right now? What are you holding on to, preserving through tough times, and maybe a hope, a promise, a deeply held belief that seems impossible today, but points to a future you trust is coming?